Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the greatest show on the web, The Turnaround. Happy Labor Day, y'all. Hopefully you have a good time with your family today. Sponsored by D.A.T.A Productions. And before I get into it, I just want to let you know we have a bomber today. Yeah, I think we do. Now, on this Labor Day, I'm just going to do a real quick podcast going through the 2018 Eagles season and preview each game. It's going to be short, quick, and to the point, and we get along with our day. We're 3 days away from the season opener in Philly, Thursday night, versus the Atlanta Falcons, the Dirty Birds. I cannot wait. We'll have some more updates for D.A.T.A Productions on that later today or tomorrow, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, D.A.T.A Productions, D.A.T.A Productions, or follow us on Instagram or Twitter. D.A.T.A Productions IV is the handle, so go peep that out. Now, let's just get right into the topic. So, for the 2018 Eagles schedule, I gotta preface a couple of things. One, the Eagles are the number one team in football. And so when I go through the preview schedule, that's what I have in mind. You know, when I look at it, we have talent on both sides of the ball, and we have great veteran leadership on both sides of the ball too. We are stacked. We have depth at most positions across the board, and we have great coaching, and we just have a mature aspect to the game, you know. We're starting right back at the bottom. Not necessarily we're underdogs now, but we haven't proved anything. This is a whole new season. And that's the team's mentality, and I think that's going to take us far. And so with that being said, I'm going to have a couple, records that I think that are possible. I'm going to do, a ceiling, realistic, and disappointment. So first of all, I think our ceiling as being the best team in football is 14-2. And yes, I realize that we're playing the NFC South this year. I realize we have a first place schedule this year. But being the best team in football, you expect excellence. I'm an optimist as well, but there's an expectation in Philly now, being the best team, having the best talent on both sides of the ball, that we do our job. And so with that being said, I think 14-2 for this team is very realistic. It's tangible. If a lot of things go correct, we could see ourselves winning another extra game this year because we went 13-3 last year. Realistically, when looking at the schedule, like I said, we're playing the NFC South, first place schedule. We have to travel to London this year. 12-4 is more of a realistic schedule. I think it will shake out for us. That's, a really good record. I'd rather go 12-4, win the Super Bowl, than go 14-2 and not win the Super Bowl. So that's where I'm at. At the end of the day, the goal is to get to Atlanta at the end of the season, I think in February 3rd, and playing for our second Super Bowl win. So that's the goal. Like I said, realistic is 12-4, and I think a disappointing season would be anything under 11 wins. That's hard to conceive with the talent we have. We would have to have a catastrophic meltdown just of our team if we win anything less than 11 games. And in my opinion, that'd be unacceptable, especially with, a franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz who's going to be coming back healthy, the best backup quarterback in football, one of the best defenses, one of the best offensive lines, and an upgraded wide receiving core from last year. And our defensive line may have gotten better as well. So with all this being said, I think, 12-4 is realistic. 14-2 is a ceiling, but that's also very much realistic in our grasps if everything works out correctly. So now let's just get into 2018 week by week preview, a couple tips here and there to look out for each week, and then we get on our way and have a good Labor Day. All right, so let's get to it. So Thursday night, week 1, the Falcons are coming to Philly. We played each other, I'm thinking it was the divisional round last year in Philly, and Nick Foles was starting. We obviously ended up winning that game. That was the first year under the Steve Sarkisian offense for Matt Ryan. I'm truly expecting it's going to be an even tougher game this year because, one, the Atlanta Falcons have something to prove, and two, Matt Ryan is under the second year of the system with Steve Sarkisian, figuring out how he calls plays, figuring out the schemes and things like that. They said they're mostly using, Kyle Shanahan's structure to the playbook, but again, it usually takes 2 years in the second year to get everything worked out. So with that being said, I think it's going to be a tough one, especially with Nick Foles starting. The crowd's going to be wild. The link is going to be popping. But when you look at it, a lot of our starters haven't played in the preseason. We're trying to get them back healthy. Wentz is not playing. Foles needed as many reps as possible, and I feel like he didn't even get those. So I think that's one of the games that we could possibly lose week 1. And Eagles fans, we have to be careful, not overreact. If we do lose week 1, I don't think we lose, but I think it's a possibility that we do. And if we do, it's not time to overreact. I feel like the Atlanta Falcons have a little something more to prove. And, we just have a lot of things to work out. We have a big target on our back, and we just have to, weather the storm. And I think week 1 could be a little bit interesting. So right now, if I do go by the realistic 12-4, I do think the Falcons are a team that we could possibly lose to. So keep that in mind. Week 2, the Eagles are going down to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. The Bucs were 5-11 last year. Jameis didn't play for most of this. Didn't play for like the first half of the season or something like that. But he was still slinging it. And I think Jameis might be suspended for the first couple games this year again. So if Jameis is suspended, even with the talent on the outside with Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard, a decent defense that Tampa Bay has with speed and things like that, I think that's definitely a dub for us. I think we'll come back to Philly week 3, 2-0. Hopefully not 1-1, but I think we can come back to Philly 2-0. So week 3, we are playing the Indianapolis Colts in Philly. The Colts were 4-12 last year without Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is now back. He's been saying that his arm's feeling a lot better. He kind of has a twinkle in his eye again. And if you listen to Colin Cowherd, he says, before Carson Wentz, Andrew Luck was his guy. And, I still do think that Andrew Luck has a ton left to play. I remember, his first couple of years in the league, a lot of picks, but a lot of good things. He can move. He can obviously throw the ball. He's a leader. And again, when you start seeing the twinkle in his eye of him saying he has his arm back, that's a little bit scary. But the thing about this game is the Indianapolis Colts don't have a whole lot around him. And so I think our team would just overpower the Colts in this situation. As great as Andrew Luck is, the Eagles team as a whole is just greater. The whole is greater than the parts right now. So I think we do come out with a dub right there. So right now I think we do go 3-0 with a possible 2-1 with the Falcons right now, but we'll see. Then the Eagles go to Nashville, Tennessee to play the Titans. The Titans last year were 9-7. Marcus Mariota, he's a good quarterback. I don't know if he'll ever be elite. I don't know if he has that type of juice. That still remains to be seen. If you ask me, Jameis Winston out of those two has more juice than Marcus Mariota, but the difference is Marcus Mariota is not always in the news for something silly, doing something stupid, and doing immature things. So that's what makes him, steady Eddie and things like that. But I don't know if he has the ability to take, the Titans over the top. Now, with that being said, they do have a lot of talent. Their offensive line is very good. Their defense is very underrated. I mean, it was a top-ranked defense last year that was just flying under the radar. And so I think it could have a potential to be a good game in Tennessee, but it's a game that we should win. Again, we do have a big target on our back, but being the best team in football, we got to handle our business. And if we're healthy at that point, still it's week 4, there should be no reason why we're losing that game. So I think at this point we are going. We're going at least 3-1, if not 4-0 at this point at week 4 in the season. Week 5. Now, this is a big, big game. Week 5 is a huge game. This is revenge for the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are coming to Philly. They're coming to Link, and they have a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove, and they're going to give us hell, and I know it. Elite defense, talent across the board on that defense. There's an argument that says there's more talent on that defense than the Eagles. It just depends on who you talk to. The Vikings upgraded at quarterback from Case Keenum to Kirk Cousins, so that should help. Kirk Cousins is a solid quarterback. I would take him over Case Keenum. But there is an argument that says that Case Keenum played at the level of a consistent Kirk Cousins last year, so they might get the same production. And last year, the Vikings went 13-3. We saw them in the NFC Championship game. We smashed them. I'm not predicting the same outcome this year. I think it's going to be a tough game. They're going to have something to prove. And I think that's another game that we could possibly lose. So with that, the Vikings, week 5 in Philly, I think we most likely have issues, and that's a big possibility that we lose that game. And so at this point, realistically, I would say we are in. This is where the Eagles fan base has to, be calm, because the goal is just to make the playoffs. Because if we make the playoffs, anything is possible. If we get home field advantage, that's the goal, and that's what we're playing for. So at this point in the season, I think we lose that game. I think that's a realistic loss in our schedule. So if I say we win the Falcons and we lose the Vikings, at this part in the season, we're 4-1. All right. And I think that's pretty good in this case. And that gives us leeway going into the second third of the season in this case. So I would say, it's still shaky on the Falcons, but I think we win, even though with Foles at quarterback. We obviously win in Tampa Bay. We win versus the Colts. We win versus the Titans. And we take probably our first L in Philly versus the Vikings, because that's a re-up game, and they have a little bit more to prove than we do. So just watch out for that, all right? Now, in week 6, we were playing the Giants. I think the Giants went 3-13 last year. Really bad season. But again, this is a team that read up. They just paid Odell Beckham $95 million. They got Eli Manning a left tackle. Saquon Barkley is going to be a beast. So, and it's a rivalry game in the division, so you can't sleep on them. The Giants went 3-13 last year, but we had to kick a 61-yard field goal last year to beat them. That essentially saved our season. But with that being said, I still do think that we beat the Giants, because how I see it, Eli Manning, when it matters most, will give you a pick in the fourth quarter. It's almost, inevitable. He's just one of those quarterbacks that, he's going to risk it. He's going to gamble when it really matters most, and we're going to be ready. Just hope, our DBs who have suspect hands, and that's a fact. Our DBs have brick hands, can catch them. That's going to be the key. And if we get a couple interceptions versus the Giants, I think we win. Now, week 7, we play Carolina again. I'm pretty sure we lost to Carolina last year. It was a really good game. The Panthers are going to be in Philly this year. They're 11-5. A lot of people in Carolina talking about, oh, this is the best skill group that Cam Newton has had. McCaffrey, second year in the system. You have Cam Newton and things along those lines. That defense is always steady. Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and things along those lines. So it's going to be a good, physical, hard-fought game. But when you're coming into the link, it's hard to beat us. So I think we do beat Carolina. Now, one of the biggest games of the year. And like I said, I want the Eagles to win every game. I believe we can win any game. If you ask me, 16-0 is very possible, which it is. You can win every game. But I do, when looking at the Eagles versus the Jaguars in London, I think that's a game that we actually legitimately lose. One, you're traveling across seas, you're traveling across the pond, so that's a little bit of a hindrance, especially since we haven't done it before. The Jaguars, they've been doing this for so long, they've been overseas so much, and this is a home game for them essentially. The Jaguars fans out in London are in full force. That defense is nasty. I don't even know how to describe it. The defense is nasty. You have Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, Miles Jack. You have Jalen Ramsey. I think is in Abuye on the other side of the ball. You just have so much talent on the Jaguars defense that it's just going to be tough. And again, you have on the offensive side of the ball for the Jags, Leonard Fournette, but that's pretty much it. Blake Bortles, he's just going to hand off the ball. He's not going to do too much. He's just going to, do enough just to make sure he's not the guy that's going to lose them the game. If this game was in Philly or if this game was actually in Jacksonville, I would think that the Eagles would win it. But being that it's in London, it's a home game essentially for the Jags. The Eagles have never won abroad. Well, they haven't been abroad with this group. It's been quite a bit of minutes since the Eagles have been back in London. I think they did like an expedition game like 10, 15 years ago. I just think that's the ingredients to legitimately take an L that week in week 8. But we'll see. And so halfway through the season, this is what I'm shaking it out to be. If we're talking realistically, I do think that we do beat the Falcons, even though that's a possible L. Week 1, we do beat the Bucks, we beat the Colts, we beat the Titans, we lose to the Vikings, we beat the Giants, we beat the Panthers, and we lose to the Jags. So week 8 through week 8, I'm looking at right now 6-2 is realistically what we're looking at. I think it's possible that we could go 7-1 with that Vikings game, but I think they just have a little bit too much to prove right now. So I'll go realistically 6-2 after week 8 with losses to the Vikings and Jags. If we lose a third game to the Falcons that week 1, that does cause a little bit of concern just because we're going for the first place. We want to get home field advantage. We want to get that first seed. We want to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That's what makes Philadelphia Eagles so great is because when you have to come to Philly, when you have to come to the Link, you have to deal with the fans as well, and that's a tough place to play. But I think if we get out of there 6-2, we're setting ourselves up for a good second half of the season. All right, so we have a bye week 9. Then Dallas comes to town. Dallas was 9-7 last year. They're having issues with Zeke getting suspended. They still have one of the better lines in the league, offensive lines in the league. Dak Prescott is steady. You know what you're getting out of Zeke. They really don't have a big-time wide receiver with Dez gone. I think they have Allen Hurns now. He's a solid pro. But overall, the Eagles are a more talented team on both sides of the ball, and I fully expect for us to win this one, especially in Philly. When Dallas comes to town, we're juiced. So that's going to be a good one. Week 11 now. Week 11, that's going to be a tough one. Now, when looking at my realistic record of 12-4, I do think that this could be our third loss of the season. New Orleans was 11-5 last year, but we're going to the Dome. We're going to the Superdome. Michael Thomas, another year in the system. Drew Brees, we're getting Drew Brees. This is probably the best defense that Drew Brees has had, probably, since his tenure in New Orleans. So with all those ingredients, that is a team I am a little bit worried about when coming to the playoffs, because you don't want to go through the Superdome for the playoffs. If they have to play in a dome each and every week in the playoffs, New Orleans, that is setting them up for a Super Bowl success, and I don't want that. So realistically, that is a game that I think that we could lose, and that could, have implications for the playoffs. So let's just keep an eye out on that. Week 12, we're playing NY again. I think at this point in the season, Wentz is coming into his own. The whole offense is coming into their own. The defense still doing their thing. Without injuries, I think it's a dub for us, without a doubt. These are games like the Giants games are the games that we have to pick up, regardless of how scary Odell Beckham is out on the field. And I tell you, my guy is scary. When he has the ball in his hands, he just glides out there, and not many people are faster than him. Not many people can effortlessly catch the ball as him, and things like that. But this part in the season, we can't take an L to them, not to them. Week 13, we're playing the 7-9 Washington Redskins. That was a record last year. In my opinion, no disrespect to Redskins fans or anything like that, we can't lose a game to the Redskins this year. We need those games for first round implications, first seed implications in the playoffs. So with that, I think we do beat them. I mean, Alex Smith is steady Eddie at quarterback. You know what you're going to get. But other than that, I mean, I think the team is just not as talented as it has been in the past. And so I think that they'll struggle versus the Eagles. Now, I think if we're going off the realistic schedule, the realistic record of 12-4, I think our fourth loss of the season would come to Dallas in Dallas. This could have playoff implications. I think Dallas does have talent on both sides of the ball, and they're a formidable enemy every year, regardless of how the season shakes out. So, while looking at it, I think we do split the series with Dallas. Each team wins a game in their home stadium, and that would set us up for the 4 losses that I think we have this year. Week 15, we have the Rams, 11-5. They're a good team. Jared Goff, Gurley, Brandon Cooks. You have Aaron Donald, who just got paid, and in my opinion, he's probably the best player in football. It's hard to quantify the value a defensive tackle in the NFL. But when you're talking about sheer elite, just elite presence, beating the man right next to you and things along those lines, Aaron Donald's that guy. He's a surefire Hall of Famer and a surefire, like, elite level type Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, if he keeps doing what he's doing. But I do think we win that game in LA. We're getting to the part of the season where I think that we can't let up at all. And we got to go full force into the playoffs because we need that number 1 seed again. So with that being said, even with Sean McVay's offense and things, I think we get it done in LA, especially I think if Wentz is there, which he should be, he lights him up again and kind of, rebuttals what happened last year. Then week 16, we have the 4-12 Texans coming to Philly. Deshaun Watson's back. You have J.J. Watt. You have Jadeveon Clowney on the bookends. That could pose some problems. That really could pose some problems. You have DeAndre Hopkins as well. But again, I think it's a game that we have to win, and I think we do win. And the last game of the season before the playoffs is Washington again. Depending on how things shake out, if we already secured the number 1 seed, hopefully at that point, maybe Washington beats us because we're resting players and we're just trying to get ready for the postseason. But we will see. Now, like I said, looking at the record, I think we do realistically can go 14-2 if everything goes correct. I think the 2 legitimate losses on our schedule would be the Jaguars in London and the Vikings. And so those are the 2 games I think we legitimately, most possibly lose. And the other 2 teams I think that we do lose to are the Dallas Cowboys, week 14 in Dallas. I think we split Dallas. That's one of our biggest rivals. And another game is New Orleans in the Superdome. With that high-powered offense, that could pose some issues and things like that. So that's the realistic 4 losses I do see. And like I said, a disappointing record would probably be 11-5 because that probably doesn't get us the first round bye. That probably doesn't get us first seed either. And I think that would come if we do lose the first week to Atlanta, just with all the controversy of Nick Foles starting and things like that. But that's just a possibility. I think we handle our business week 1, especially opening day in Philly. We get it done. And so with that, I'm really excited for this season. I think we're going to do a lot of big things. I'm going to have updates on how I'm going to be covering the season going forward and things along those lines. So that's what I just wanted to talk to you today right now on the schedule preview, just really quickly on how things are going to shake out this season. And I'm excited, 3 days left until opening day. All right. So that's all I have today for the turnaround, sponsored by D.A.T.A Productions. Go follow, go subscribe. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I'm all in all. And hope you like this little preview just to get your mind ready for what is about to come. It's a long, long season. It's going to be 4 or 5 plus months. But I think it's going to be exciting all the way through. And I truly do think that the Eagles are going to be back in the Super Bowl in Atlanta. And we're going to be partying. That's just how I feel. You got to have that type of optimism. So that's all I have for you today. You guys have a happy Labor Day. Enjoy the time with your family. Relax, rest up, and get ready for the football season because Sundays are back. That's all. Deuces.